She actually raised her glass and said, "Let's pray Dana finds her purpose someday." Right there, at the family reunion, in front of 30 people. They all laughed, even my little brother. But then she pulled out a glossy folder, showed off her new financial planner, said it was real branding, not like Dana's doodles. The whole table leaned in to admire my logo, my design, my work, praising it, while mocking me. She had no idea whose name built her retirement plan, but she was about to find out. Quietly, publicly, permanently. But before we begin, let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. My name is Dana Lenore Maddox, and I'm 38 years old. I spend my days working on digital branding from the guest house at my cousin Rachel's vineyard, where the silence suits my creative process. My mother Ruth treats every family gathering like a performance review, praising my sister Jessica's real estate empire, and my brother Mark's surgical career while my freelance work gets dismissed as doodling. My shoulders tense whenever her number lights up my phone. The irony? My little side projects include designing for some of the most prestigious firms in the region. I just never signed my full name to them. My fingertips brush across my latest design, a sleek logo for an exclusive financial group, and a smile tugs at my lips. But let me start from the beginning. I pulled into the vineyard's event space 20 minutes late, deliberately missing the pre-dinner small talk. You know those family gatherings where every conversation feels like stepping onto a minefield? That was our annual reunion. The late afternoon sun painted everything golden, but the warmth couldn't touch the chill I felt watching my mother hold court at the head table. Remember those old school projector slides? How they'd click into perfect focus? That's how the scene snapped into place. Jessica in her power suit, Mark fresh from his hospital shift, and Ruth, presiding over it all like some self-appointed queen of success. The only empty chair was between my Aunt Carol and cousin Rachel's husband. Of course. "Dana, sweetie," Aunt Carol's voice carried across the patio. "We saved you a spot," as if there had been any competition for it. The wooden chair scraped against stone as I sat down, and the familiar scent of my mother's signature perfume, something expensive and French, drifted over from 3 seats away. I reached for the Chardonnay, Rachel's Vineyard's best, though Ruth would probably call it quaint, compared to whatever bottles Jessica brought. The wine was cool against my throat as conversations buzzed around me. Mark's latest surgical technique, Jessica's new luxury listing, Ruth's social circle drama. "How's the little computer drawing going?" Aunt Carol asked, patting my arm. My jaw tightened. I'd explained digital branding to her at least 12 times, but the sharp ring of silver against crystal cut through the chatter. Ruth stood, wineglass raised, that familiar gleam in her eye that always meant someone was about to become her punchline. "I'd like to make a toast," she announced, and my stomach dropped. The table fell silent. To all the winners in this room. Her gaze swept past Mark and Jessica, lingering on their achievements like a proud collector showing off her prizes. Then her eyes found me, lips curving into that special smirk she reserved for her disappointments. "And let's pray Dana finds her purpose someday." Laughter rippled around the table. Not cruel exactly, more reflexive, the kind that comes from years of following Ruth's lead. The wine turned sour in my mouth. I focused on my breathing, the way I'd learned in therapy. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Don't give her the satisfaction. "But that's not all," Ruth continued, reaching for her designer handbag. "I have wonderful news to share." She pulled out a sleek folder, embossed with a distinctive logo that made my fingers go numb. "I've finally secured my retirement planning with Meridian Wealth Partners. They're absolutely exclusive, the best of the best." The logo caught the setting sun, clean lines flowing into an abstract horizon, exactly as I designed it 6 months ago. One of my favorite pieces, actually. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't making my chest tight. "Just look at their materials," Ruth gushed, passing the folder around. "This is real branding, not some side hustle logo like Dana does. This is what professional success looks like." More appreciative murmurs. Jessica leaned in to examine the design, probably mentally calculating how to get Meridian to manage her own portfolio. Mark nodded along, already typing something into his phone. The folder made its way down the table, hands passing my own work right past me like I was invisible. I watched Ruth bask in the attention, her face glowing with satisfaction. The familiar heat of humiliation started to rise, but something else pushed through it, something cool and clear. My pulse, which had been racing, began to slow. Because there it was, right on the cover. My design, my vision, my expertise, being praised by the very woman who thought I was nothing but a disappointment. She had no idea. Not yet. I drove home in a daze, muscle memory carrying me down the winding road to Rachel's vineyard. You know those moments when your mind is spinning so fast it feels completely still? That was me, gripping the steering wheel, the taste of expensive Chardonnay and familiar shame still bitter on my tongue. The guest house waited in the twilight, my quiet refuge among the vines. I'd always loved how the old wooden steps creaked their hello, how the key stuck just a little in the lock before giving way. Tonight, though, I barely noticed. My laptop was calling. Inside, I kicked off my heels and started pacing. 10 steps from the kitchen to the living room window, pivot, 10 steps back. The sound of my stockinged feet against the hardwood matched my heartbeat. Thud, 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 thud. Remember when you were a kid, and you'd get so worked up about something that your whole body hummed? That's how it felt, except I wasn't a powerless child anymore. The reunion replayed in my head. Ruth's smirk, the laughter, that damn logo catching the sunset. My hands were shaking, but not from anger. No, this was something else, something focused. I fired up my laptop and dug through my external hard drive. The folder structure was meticulous, one perk of being obsessive, as Ruth loved to point out. Project files, contracts, correspondence. There, 6 months ago. The Meridian Wealth Partners subfolder. Come on, I muttered, scrolling through PDFs until, bingo. The contract. I'd done the work through Stevens & Associates, a design firm that often hired me for overflow projects. They handled the client contact while I created in peaceful anonymity. The perfect arrangement for someone who preferred letting their work speak for itself. But right there, on page 3, the client contact name, Kara Hartwell, managing partner. I remembered her now. She'd been different from the usual finance types, actually listened during our brief overlap in project meetings, asked intelligent questions about the design choices. She'd even sent a personal note through Stevens praising the final deliverables. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. This was either brilliant or terrible, but the image of Ruth's condescending toast pushed me forward. I opened my email and started typing. Dear Ms. Hartwell, I hope this finds you well. We worked together briefly on the Meridian rebrand through Stevens & Associates last year. I was the lead designer for your brand package. I'm reaching out because I'd love to discuss an interesting situation involving your firm's visual identity. I read it over 3 times, tweaking words until they struck the right balance between professional and intriguing. Then, before I could overthink it, I hit send. Sleep didn't come easily that night. I lay awake watching moonlight paint patterns on my ceiling, remembering all the times Ruth had dismissed my little computer drawings. The way she'd introduced me at parties. This is Dana, she's between things right now. As if building a successful freelance business meant nothing without a corner office and a fancy title. The next morning, I was barely through my first cup of coffee when my phone chimed. There it was, Kara's reply. Dana, of course I remember you. Your work was exceptional. I'm intrigued by your email. Free for a quick Zoom at 10? My hands were steady now as I typed back. Perfect. See you then. At 9:59, I squared my shoulders and clicked the meeting link. Kara's face filled my screen. Sharp, professional, but with kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when she smiled. Dana Maddox, she said warmly. I always wondered why Stevens wouldn't give me your direct contact. Your brand system has been a game changer for us. I felt my cheeks warm. Thank you. That actually relates to why I'm calling. I told her everything, the reunion, Ruth's mockery, the bitter irony of her praising the very work she'd dismissed. Kara listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from surprise to something that looked almost pleased. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. So your mother has no idea her retirement is being managed by a firm whose entire visual identity came from her purposeless daughter? None. And she's been showing off our materials to everyone who will listen? I nodded. Kara's smile turned thoughtful. What would poetic justice look like to you? The question hung there, full of possibility. I opened my mouth to answer, but Kara wasn't finished. She leaned toward her camera, eyes sparkling. We're hosting a gala, she said. Want in? I let Kara's words sink in. A gala. My stomach did a little flip, the kind that happens when opportunity and terror collide. You know that feeling? I appreciate the offer, I said carefully, but I'm not looking to humiliate anyone, even my mother. Kara nodded, like she'd expected this answer. Tell me what you want, Dana. Really want. The question caught me off guard. In my vineyard guest house, surrounded by other people's success stories, I'd gotten used to wanting quietly. But now? Credit, I said finally. Just credit. My name on the work I did. Nothing splashy, nothing mean-spirited, just the truth, in black and white. In the portfolio? Yes, the new public one you're launching. I took a breath. I know it's asking a lot. It's asking for what's yours, Kara cut in. Her voice had an edge I hadn't heard before. And honestly, it's not asking enough. She shuffled some papers off screen, then looked directly into the camera. Here's what I'm thinking. We're unveiling our 5-year growth strategy at the gala. The centerpiece, our brand evolution. The story of how thoughtful design transformed a boutique firm into a market leader. My pulse quickened. I could see where this was heading. We need a keynote speaker, she continued. Someone who can walk our top clients through the creative journey. Someone who actually built it. She paused. That's you, Dana. The room felt suddenly airless. My mother is on the VIP list, front row. I stood up and paced, my bare feet silent on the hardwood. Through the window, I could see the vineyard stretching toward the horizon. For years, I'd watched the vines being carefully trained, pruned, nurtured, patient work, invisible until harvest. What exactly would this look like? I asked, returning to my desk. Kara's smile widened. You, on stage, your full portfolio projected behind you, including the initial sketches, the evolution, the final system. Your name on every slide. And then, she leaned forward. We unveil the permanent installation in our lobby. A timeline of our brand journey, with your original concept sketch framed as the cornerstone. Signed. I sank back in my chair. It was perfect. No mockery, no cheap shots, just pure professional recognition. The kind Ruth couldn't dismiss or explain away. The gala's in 3 weeks, Kara added. We'll need to move fast on the presentation. But Dana? Her voice softened. This isn't just about your mother. Your work deserves to be seen. Really seen. Remember how I said earlier that some moments feel like tipping points? This was one of them. I could stay safely anonymous, or I could step into the light, claim my space. I'm in, I said. The words came out steady, surprising me. But we keep this quiet until then. No announcements, no previews. Agreed. I'll have legal draw up the credit acknowledgements today. We'll need your signature. My phone buzzed. A text from Ruth. Darling, did you see the Meridian Wealth newsletter? Such elegant design. You could learn something. My fingers itched to respond, to give her just a tiny hint of what was coming. Instead, I started typing, Actually, Mom, that's funny because, no. I deleted the draft, my hands shaking slightly. Not yet. Dana? Kara was waiting. Sorry, I said, setting my phone face down. Where were we? Contracts, timeline. And Dana? She grinned. Get ready to own that stage. I nodded, a plan crystallizing. 3 weeks. 21 days of playing it cool while everything fell into place. I could do that. After all, I'd been invisible for years. But not for much longer. The call came while I was neck-deep in presentation slides. My mother's ringtone, that chirpy little melody I'd set as a warning system, made me pause mid-keystroke. I almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. But something told me to pick up. Dana? Her voice dripped with that sugary excitement that always meant trouble. You'll never guess what came in the mail today. I leaned back in my chair, studying the vineyard through my window. The morning fog was just starting to lift, revealing neat rows of vines stretching toward the horizon. Hi, Mom. What came in the mail? An invitation. She practically sang the word. To the most exclusive financial event of the season, Meridian Wealth's private investor gala. My stomach did a little flip, but I kept my voice steady. Oh, that sounds fancy. Fancy doesn't begin to cover it. Papers rustled on her end. It's black tie, dear, at the Grand Mason downtown. They're unveiling some big corporate announcement. Very hush-hush. Only their top clients made the list. I picked up my coffee mug, buying time. Wow. That's quite an honor, Isn't it, though? She paused, and I could practically hear her preening. Of course, I always knew choosing them was the right move. Their attention to detail, their sophistication, everything about them speaks quality. Including the branding, I thought, but said nothing. I've already started planning my outfit, she continued. That new Valentino I bought in March, you remember the one with the... Oh, but you probably wouldn't. Fashion isn't really your... area. I pressed my lips together. Sounds perfect for you, Mom. It is. And the best part? Her voice rose with excitement. Brandon's agreed to film the whole thing for my social media. He's so good with cameras, you know. Always was the artistic one. Coffee splashed onto my desk as my hand jerked. Brandon's coming? Well, of course. Someone needs to document this milestone. It's not every day one of their clients gets specially recognized. She laughed. Though between us, I have a feeling they might be announcing something about my portfolio's performance. Why else invite me personally? I grabbed a tissue, mopping up coffee while my mind raced. Brandon. My quiet, observant little brother would be there with his camera, recording everything. Every reaction, every reveal. That's great, Mom. I tried to keep my voice light. I'm sure Brandon will capture it beautifully. He always does. Such an eye for detail. Must run in the family. Well, parts of the family. Another tinkling laugh. Oh, that reminds me. Has anyone from that coffee shop chain gotten back to you about their logo yet? My jaw tightened. Actually, I'm working on something else right now. Of course you are, dear. Well, keep trying. Maybe watch some YouTube tutorials? I hear those can be helpful for beginners. Through the window, a hawk circled lazily over the vineyard. I watched it drift, remembering all the times I'd envied its freedom, its patience. Thanks for the tip, Mom. I should probably get back to work. Oh yes, your little projects. She sighed. Well, I need to call my stylist anyway. The gala's in 2 weeks, barely enough time to pull everything together. Brandon's already planning to get establishing shots of the venue, maybe some candids during the cocktail hour. Sounds perfect, I managed. Doesn't it? He's even bringing his professional equipment. Said something about this being too important for iPhone footage. Pride swelled in her voice. That boy, always going the extra mile. I closed my eyes, picturing Brandon's expensive camera catching every moment, every expression, including Mom's. Listen, I really do have to go, I said. But have fun planning. I will. Oh, and Dana? Her tone shifted to that familiar blend of pity and condescension. Don't feel bad about not being invited. These sorts of events, they're for a certain caliber of person. You understand? My fingers tightened around the phone. I understand perfectly, Mom. After we hung up, I sat there for a long moment, staring at my presentation notes. Brandon would be filming. My quiet, watchful brother, the family documentarian, would capture the whole thing in pristine high definition. Then I'll make sure there's something worth filming, I whispered. I spent the next week living and breathing that presentation. Every morning, I'd wake up before sunrise, grab my coffee, and spread my notes across the kitchen counter. The same way I used to arrange my crayons as a kid, all lined up and ready for action. Remember those days? When you thought getting the colors in perfect order would somehow make the picture turn out better. The slides had to be flawless, not just good, devastating. I worked with Kara's team over Zoom, fine-tuning every transition, every reveal. More contrast here, I'd say, pointing to a before and after comparison. We need the transformation to hit harder. You sure you want to use the original sketches? Sarah, Kara's art director, asked during one session. They're pretty raw. I nodded. That's exactly why. They show the journey, the work. The years of effort Mom had dismissed as doodling around. Between calls, I'd pace my little guest house, practicing my delivery. The bathroom mirror became my audience. I must have rehearsed that opening line 50 different ways. Behind every successful brand lies a story. No, too corporate. What makes a visual identity resonate? Better, but still not quite right. My phone buzzed constantly with updates from the family group chat. Aunt Linda asking about parking at the Grand Mason. My sister wondering if she could squeeze it into her schedule. And Brandon, ever the documentarian, dropping little video teasers. The latest one came yesterday. Mom in her garden, wearing her casual pearls, pretending not to notice the camera. Just 2 weeks until the big reveal, Brandon's caption read. Our star getting ready for her close-up. The comments rolled in immediately. Heart emojis from the cousins. You go, girl, from my sister. Mom's response was pure Ruth. Oh, stop. But yes, do keep filming, dear. The lighting is perfect. I watched that clip at least 10 times, studying her satisfied smile, the way she tilted her chin just so. The same expression she'd worn at every family gathering while introducing my siblings. This is Alexandra, my realtor daughter. She just closed on a waterfront property. Or, have you met James? He's chief of orthopedics now. Then there was me. And Dana. Well, she's still finding herself. The presentation draft sat open on my laptop, each slide a carefully placed landmine. The original concept sketches, dated and signed. The progression photos showing how the brand evolved. And the final reveal, my name, my work, my quiet victory splashed across the screen while Mom sat in the audience, thinking she was there to be celebrated. Kara called to check in. How's it coming? Almost there. I rubbed my temples, just trying to get the tone right. Remember, she said, this isn't about revenge. It's about recognition. I know. And I did. I didn't want to humiliate her. I just wanted her to see, really see. Another notification pinged. Brandon had posted a new clip. This time Mom was waving from her front porch, designer shopping bags at her feet. Someone's been preparing, his caption teased. The responses poured in. Stunning as always. Can't wait to see the final look. I closed my eyes, remembering all the times she'd posed like that. Perfectly poised, perfectly dismissive. The way she'd wave away my accomplishments. Oh, Dana made another little logo. How sweet. My phone lit up again. Brandon had added a comment. Full video coming soon. This one's going to be special. He had no idea. I clicked back to my presentation, tweaking the timing of that final slide. Everything had to be precise. The build-up, the revelation. The moment when Mom would realize that her deadweight daughter had been carrying her all along. In the kitchen, I could hear the evening wind rustling through the vineyard, that soft, steady whisper that always reminded me of possibilities, of patience. I played Brandon's video one more time. There was Mom, waving regally at the camera, already rehearsing her moment of triumph. Smile while you can, I muttered, and turned back to my notes. I'd forgotten how these old buildings smell, like polished wood and generations of perfume soaked into the walls. The Grand Mason's service entrance creaked as I slipped in, my heels clicking against marble floors that had seen a century of San Francisco's elite. You know those moments when your heart's beating so hard you can taste it? Yeah, that was me. A young server pointed me toward the prep area, past bustling kitchen staff and the gentle chaos of last-minute arrangements. The familiar scent of fresh flowers mixed with coffee and anxiety. Funny how some things never change. Back in college, I'd worked events like this, watching from the shadows as the important people celebrated themselves. Tonight was different. Tonight, I was the surprise guest of honor. There's my secret weapon. Kara emerged from around a corner, elegant in charcoal gray, tablet in hand. Her smile had that fierce edge I'd come to recognize, the look of someone who enjoyed correcting life's little injustices. How are you holding up? Like I might throw up on these very expensive shoes. I smoothed my navy dress. Simple, tailored, nothing flashy. Mom would hate it. Here. Kara handed me a crisp program, the kind printed on paper so thick it felt like money. Page 3. My fingers trembled slightly as I flipped to it. There it was, right under the evening's schedule. Dana L. Maddox, creative partner, brand strategy. 7 words that had taken 15 years to earn. Remember how I mentioned those sense memories that stick with you? The vinegar sting of Mom's voice at every holiday. Still just making logos, dear? The dismissive wave when I tried showing her my portfolio. That's nice, but when are you getting a real job? Each word had left a mark. Each mark had built this moment. Come on, Kara guided me toward the ballroom's rear entrance. Let's get you settled. Through the partially open door, I could see guests filtering in. The room dripped old money. Crystal chandeliers, gilt-edged everything, fresh orchids on every table. A massive screen dominated the stage, currently showing the firm's logo. My logo. There she is! Brandon's voice carried across the marble floor. I ducked back just as Mom swept in. resplendent in a cream-sequined jacket that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She moved like she owned the place, pausing to let Brandon adjust his camera angle. "The lighting's perfect here," he directed, ever the documentarian. "Maybe one more wave to your admirers?" Mom obliged, practicing that beauty queen gesture she'd perfected over the years. The same one she'd use when introducing my siblings at parties. "Alexandra just made partner." Wave. "James is speaking at Harvard." Wave. I pressed my back against the wall, pulse thundering in my ears. 15 years of ghost work, of signing NDAs instead of getting credit, of watching others take bows for my vision. It all came down to the next 20 minutes. "You good?" Kara squeezed my arm. The room felt too warm, too close. "What if I freeze?" "You won't." She met my eyes. "You've earned this stage." Every step of it. A memory flashed. Me at 12, showing Mom my first real drawing. She'd barely glanced up from her magazine. "Lovely, dear. Now go do something useful." The MC appeared, headset gleaming. "5 minutes, Ms. Maddox." I nodded, unable to speak. Through the gap in the curtain, I watched Mom settle into her front row seat, Brandon positioning himself for the perfect angle. The house lights began to dim. "Places, everyone!" The stage manager's whisper carried urgent energy. 30 seconds. My hands weren't shaking anymore. Something else had taken over. That quiet certainty that comes when you've waited long enough, worked hard enough, earned every second of what's coming. The MC's voice filled the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the creative force behind our firm's revolutionary rebrand." I thought of all those family dinners, all those subtle cuts and dismissive smiles. The way Mom would introduce me last, like an afterthought. "And Dana? Well, she tries." The spotlight hit the curtain. My cue was seconds away. Our creative partner and brand strategist, Dana L. Maddox. I exhaled once and stepped into the spotlight. I stepped into the warm glow of the spotlight, and for a moment, everything felt surreal. The microphone caught the soft click of my heels as I crossed to center stage. You know that sensation when you're dreaming, but you know you're dreaming? That's what it felt like, except this was absolutely real. "Good evening." My voice came out steadier than I'd expected. "Tonight, I want to tell you a story about transformation." The first slide appeared behind me, the firm's original logo from 15 years ago. Basic, forgettable, the kind of design that screams, "We picked this font from a template." "Every brand has humble beginnings," I continued, settling into my rhythm. "But the truly special ones? They evolve. They grow. They become something more than anyone expected." I caught Mom's expression in the front row. Polite interest, nothing more. She was probably wondering when the real speaker would take over. Brandon's camera tracked my movement, red light blinking. Remember those summer afternoons when Mom would host her investment club? The ladies would gather in our living room, all pearls and perfect hair, while I sat in the kitchen doing homework. "Dana's still finding herself," she'd tell them if they asked. That memory tasted like lukewarm tea and disappointment. The next slide clicked into place, my initial concept sketches. When I first approached this rebrand, I wanted to capture something essential about trust and growth. I traced the evolution with my laser pointer. See how the lines flow upward? That's intentional. It mirrors the upward trajectory of your investments. A slight furrow appeared between Mom's eyebrows, the first crack in her composure. Each element was carefully chosen. I zoomed in on the custom letter forms. The modified serif font speaks to tradition, while the modern angles suggest innovation. My voice grew stronger. This wasn't just about making something pretty. It was about creating a visual promise. The next series of slides showed the brand in action. Business cards, websites, annual reports. Each one carried my distinctive style, my creative fingerprints. I saw the moment Mom started connecting the dots. Her spine stiffened. Her hands, folded in her lap, clenched slightly. The results speak for themselves. Performance graphs filled the screen. Since implementing this unified brand strategy, client acquisition has increased by 43%. Portfolio growth has exceeded projections by a factor of 3. Mom's face had gone from confused to ashen. She glanced at Brandon's camera, then back at me, her eyes wide with dawning horror. But numbers only tell part of the story. I clicked to the next slide. The real magic happens when design aligns perfectly with values. There it was, My original concept sketch, signed and dated. Next to it, my full name and title, Dana L. Maddox, brand architect and creative partner. The room burst into applause. In the front row, Mom's lips moved soundlessly. I could read it clearly. No. Brandon's camera hadn't wavered. If anything, he'd zoomed in tighter, capturing every nuance of this moment. For once, he was documenting the right story. Thank you, I said, meaning it more than anyone except Mom could understand. This has been a journey of discovery, of proving that success doesn't always look the way we expect it to. The applause grew louder. Several people stood. Mom remained seated, frozen, her perfect posture finally cracking. I had imagined this moment so many times, rehearsed it in my mind during countless family dinners where I'd been the punchline. But standing there, watching the truth sink in, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt free. Your trust in this firm, I concluded, looking directly at Mom for the first time, has been my privilege to earn, through design, through dedication, through quiet, consistent work. The standing ovation was immediate. Even Brandon lowered his camera to applaud, though he kept it running. Mom's hands stayed locked in her lap, her face a mask of disbelief and something else, something that looked almost like fear. As the applause began to fade, the CEO stepped forward, straightening his tie. "We have one more surprise," he said, reaching for the microphone. The CEO's voice carried across the hushed ballroom. "Tonight marks a special milestone for our firm. We're not just celebrating success. We're honoring the visionaries who shaped our identity." I shifted my weight, wondering what Kara had planned. She'd been suspiciously vague about this part during rehearsals. "In our newly renovated headquarters," the CEO continued, "we've created something unique, a tribute wall celebrating the creative forces behind our growth." The screen behind him flickered to life. My throat tightened. There it was, my original sketch, professionally matted and framed in brushed silver. The simple lines I'd drawn late one night at my kitchen table when the idea first came to me. Every pencil stroke, every margin note, preserved behind museum-grade glass. And there, in the bottom right corner, my signature, Dana L. Maddox. You know those moments when time seems to stretch like taffy? When you can feel every heartbeat, taste every breath? This was one of those. The crowd erupted in applause again, but I barely heard them. My eyes were fixed on Mom. She was clapping, had to keep up appearances, right? But her movements were robotic, disconnected. Like one of those wind-up toys we had as kids, the ones that would march in place until their springs wound down. Brandon had lowered his camera, though the red light told me it was still recording. His eyes were wide, darting between Mom and me like he was watching a tennis match in slow motion. I'd never seen him look so awake. "This installation," the CEO was saying, "will greet every client who visits our offices. A permanent reminder that great design isn't just about aesthetics, it's about vision, about seeing potential where others might miss it." The irony wasn't lost on anyone who knew our family history. Well, anyone except Mom. More photos appeared on screen, the finished tribute wall already installed. My sketch was the centerpiece, surrounded by performance metrics and client testimonials. Everything Mom had been bragging about for weeks, all of it traced back to my work. Remember how Mom used to arrange our family photos? All my siblings' achievements front and center, while my graduation photo somehow always ended up behind a plant? Funny how things come full circle. Guests began standing, turning toward me with genuine admiration. I spotted several of Mom's investment club friends, their expressions a mix of surprise and something that looked like respect. One of them, Mrs. Chen, who'd watched me grow up, gave me a knowing wink. "Would you join me in thanking Dana Maddox," the CEO concluded, "for helping build the foundation of our success?" The applause swelled again. I nodded my thanks, trying to keep my face professional despite the emotion building in my chest. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about recognition, about finally being seen. As the crowd began to disperse, moving toward the lobby for drinks, I caught snippets of conversation. "Did you know? Ruth's daughter. Always the quiet ones." I made my way down from the stage, accepting handshakes and congratulations. Each well done and brilliant work felt like a brick being lifted from my shoulders. Years of silent credit, of swallowed pride, dissolving in a sea of acknowledgement. Mom stood off to the side, a champagne glass clutched in her hand. She looked smaller somehow, less certain. The sequins on her jacket caught the light, but they couldn't quite match the sparkle that had drained from her eyes. Brandon approached me, camera still rolling but pointed at the floor. That was, he mouthed, shaking his head, insane. Coming from my usually unflappable brother, that was quite the review. I gave him a single nod. No explanation needed. The footage would speak for itself. Kara appeared at my elbow, tablet in hand. "Check your phone," she whispered. I pulled it out, noticed several notifications. There it was. Kara's professional account had already posted the full video of my presentation, complete with the tribute wall reveal. The caption read, "Proud to finally showcase the woman behind our brand. Credit where credit's due." The timestamp showed it had been up for exactly 3 minutes. Already the likes were rolling in. I glanced at Mom one last time, then turned and walked backstage. She could keep her sequined jacket and her social circle. I had something better. Proof. I barely slept that night. You know that buzzing feeling after a performance, when your body's exhausted but your mind won't stop replaying every moment? That was me, lying in my guest house bed, staring at the wooden beams above while the vineyard crickets chirped outside. Around dawn, my phone started dancing across the nightstand. The first notification was from LinkedIn, hundreds of new connection requests. Then came Instagram, Facebook, even my dusty Twitter account. The video had legs, and it was running marathons. Remember those chain reactions in those old mousetrap board games? Where one little marble sets off this crazy sequence of events. That's exactly what happened next. Mrs. Chen shared it first. "So proud of Dana Maddox. Some of us always knew she was brilliant." She tagged Mom's whole investment club. Then came Patricia from Mom's tennis group. "Amazing presentation by Ruth Maddox's daughter, the same daughter she was just telling us needed direction at last week's lunch." Ouch, that one had teeth. I scrolled through my coffee, watching the comments pile up. Each share felt like another brick sliding into place, building something I hadn't quite planned for. The narrative was writing itself, and Mom was losing control of the pen. My favorite comment came from Aunt Sophie's best friend. "Imagine insulting your own daughter while wearing her success. The irony is chef's kiss perfect." That one had over 50 responses, mostly from Mom's social circle. They weren't being kind. The family group chat lit up around 9. Brandon had dropped the video link with zero commentary, just the URL sitting there like a landmine. Below it, he added a single thumbs-up emoji. Coming from my camera-happy brother, that minimal response said volumes. My sister reacted with a wow and nothing else. Typical. She'd wait to see which way the wind blew before picking a side. At 10:13 a.m., the first text from Mom arrived. "You should have told me." I watched the 3 dots appear and disappear several times after that. She was typing, deleting, typing again. Finally, I looked like a fool. The irony of that statement made me snort coffee through my nose. She was worried about looking like a fool? Now? After years of making me feel exactly that way at every family gathering? My phone buzzed again. This time it was Kara. "Videos at 50K views. Your mom's been calling the office." I bet she had. Mom never could handle losing control of a narrative. She'd probably demanded they take down the video, pull the tribute wall, anything to stop the hemorrhage of her carefully curated image. The texts kept coming. "Dana, answer me. This is extremely unprofessional. I'm your mother." Each one felt smaller than the last, like watching someone deflate in real time. Around noon, the country club crowd got involved. They shared the video with comments like, "Our Ruth must be so proud," and "Finally seeing the whole picture." The emojis got more pointed, the subtext sharper. These were the same women who'd watched me grow up, who'd nodded along with Mom's dismissive comments about my little computer drawings for years. I caught myself smiling at my screen more than once. Not because I enjoyed their barbs, okay, maybe a little, but because the truth was finally doing what truth does best, revealing itself. No help needed. Brandon sent me a private text. "Mom's freaking." Called me 3 times asking how to fix the optics. He added, "Told her I'm just the cameraman." Good old Brandon, always the observer, never the player. The social media storm kept building. Someone had clipped the exact moment when Mom's face changed during my presentation, that split second of recognition followed by horror. It was becoming a reaction meme in our local business circles. Then came the text I'd been waiting for. the one that told me the message had finally landed. Take it down. Please. That please spoke volumes. Mom didn't say please. Mom demanded, directed, decreed, but she didn't plead. Until now. You know that moment when you've thrown a stone into a pond and you're watching the ripples spread? That's what the next few days felt like. Only these ripples weren't settling. They were turning into waves. Remember those Christmas cards Mom used to send out? The ones with her perfect family photos and 3-page letters about everyone's achievements? She'd been building her social media presence the same way for years. Curated, polished, pure Ruth Maddox TM. But now, her carefully constructed castle was crumbling, one unfriend at a time. I sipped my morning coffee on the vineyard porch, watching the fog roll through the vines while my phone buzzed with updates. Each notification felt like another domino falling. Did you see? My cousin texted. Ruth's been replaced as tournament director for the bridge club. I hadn't seen, actually. I'd been deliberately staying off social media, letting nature take its course. But I couldn't help clicking the link she sent. There it was, buried in the country club's newsletter. Welcome Linda Chen as our new bridge tournament director. No mention of Mom's departure, just a quiet erasure, country club style. The whispers grew louder. Mom's investment club started meeting without her. The charity board she'd chaired for 6 years suddenly had scheduling conflicts when she tried to confirm next month's gala planning session. Kara kept me updated with screenshots from various social circles. Your mom's friends are reaching out to us directly now, she wrote. They don't trust her recommendations anymore. The screenshots told the story. Saw Dana's speech, amazing work, and, looking to rebrand, loved what you did with Hartwell Financial. Each one carried a subtle dig. Unlike some people, we believe in giving credit where it's due. My Instagram follower count tripled. LinkedIn connections poured in. Design requests flooded my inbox, real ones with actual budgets, not the exposure offers Mom's friends used to send my way. Speaking of Mom, she'd gone ghost. Her usually active social account sat dormant. No more daily inspiration quotes. No more humble brag posts about her children's achievements. Minus me, of course. No more carefully filtered photos of charity luncheons. Brandon texted, Mom canceled Sunday dinner. Said she's taking a social media cleanse. Translation, she was in full damage control mode. The rumors started small but spread fast. Someone questioned whether she'd actually earned her real estate license or if she'd just taken credit for her assistant's sales. Another wondered if her designer wardrobe was really from consignment shops, not boutiques. Were they true? Probably not. But that's the thing about reputation. Once people start questioning one part, they question everything. I should have felt vindicated, maybe even pleased. But watching her social empire crumble felt more like watching a sunset, beautiful in its way, but tinged with something like melancholy. Then Kara forwarded me an email that changed everything. A major tech startup had seen my presentation. They wanted to meet. Your authentic approach to brand storytelling really resonates, they wrote. Authentic. The word hit like a thunderbolt. That's when I knew what I needed to do next. Not for revenge, we were way past that now, but for closure. For both of us. I opened Etsy and searched for custom plaques, found an artisan who worked in metal and glass, selected the platinum finish option. The design would be simple. That first logo I'd created for Hartwell Financial, the one that had started everything. Below it, my signature. And a date. Not the gala date, but the day I'd first sketched it, sitting in my tiny guest house, believing in myself when no one else did. I typed in the shipping address, Ruth Maddox, followed by her perfect suburban house number. My finger hovered over the place order button. 2 weeks crawled by like honey dripping from a spoon. You know that feeling when you're waiting for something big to land? When every delivery truck that rumbles past makes your heart skip? I kept myself busy with the new client meetings. Turns out, having your work go viral in financial circles does wonders for your portfolio. The tech startup wanted an entire rebrand, and 3 other firms had lined up behind them. My little guest house office was becoming command central for a real design business. No more ghost work, no more hiding. The autumn fog rolled through the vineyard every morning, and I'd sit on my porch watching it dance between the vines, my coffee growing cold while I checked tracking updates. The package was moving across the country, stop by stop, like a slow-motion missile seeking its target. Out, Sacramento. In, Denver, out, Kansas City, in, Columbus. Then finally, delivered. I didn't expect to hear anything, not directly. Mom and I hadn't spoken since the gala, unless you count those desperate take-it-down texts she'd sent that first morning. I'd left those on read, just like she'd left my achievements unacknowledged all these years. But I knew she'd gotten it. The tracking confirmed, signed for at 2:17 p.m. on a Tuesday. I imagined her there in her pristine foyer, opening that carefully wrapped package. The weight of it would have surprised her. Platinum finish isn't light. The logo would have caught the light first, familiar yet strange in its new permanent form. Then her eyes would have found the engraving below. Designed by the Deadweight. Simple, clean, permanent, just like my work had always been. I'd practiced ruthless patience for decades, sitting quietly through her digs and dismissals. What was another day or two of silence? I kept working, took client calls, refined proposals. The vineyard grapes were nearly ready for harvest, their purple-black clusters hanging heavy on the vines. Time has its own pace. Then my phone lit up with Brandon's name. My stomach clenched. Brandon, my younger brother, Mom's accidental documentarian. The one who'd filmed everything at the gala without knowing what he was really capturing. He'd been quiet since that night, except for that single thumbs-up emoji in the family chat. His message was short. She saw it, cried for hours. The words hit me like a physical thing. Mom, crying. Ruth Maddox, the woman who'd turned stoicism into an Olympic sport, who'd once told me tears were just manipulation in liquid form. That Ruth Maddox, crying. I sat with that image for a long moment. The fog outside had lifted, leaving the morning sun to paint long shadows across my desk. The same desk where I'd designed that logo, actually. Where I'd built my career in silence while she built her reputation on sand. My fingers moved across the phone screen. Thank you for telling me. Then I deleted his message. Not out of spite or secrecy, but because it wasn't needed anymore. The story had reached its natural end. Remember how I said some debts collect interest when paid in silence? Well, the account was finally balanced. Not with screaming or scandal, though there'd been plenty of that at the gala. But with something smaller and sharper. Truth, carved in platinum, sitting somewhere in her perfect house. I stood up and walked to my window. The vineyard stretched out before me, rows of vines marching toward the horizon. The same view I'd had while building my business, while waiting for my moment. Now the grapes were ready for harvest, and so was I. I reached up and closed the blinds, cutting off the familiar view. But just before the last slat fell into place, I caught a glimpse of the sunrise painting the sky in shades of victory. The invitation started rolling in 3 days after Brandon's text. First came the design conferences. Would I speak about rebranding in the financial sector? Then the podcast requests, the LinkedIn messages from startup founders, the emails from old classmates suddenly remembering our special connection. You know how success works. Everyone wants to claim they knew you when. But the real satisfaction? It was quieter than all that noise. It came in the way Ruth's carefully curated social circle began to crumble. Her Thursday bridge group, the one she'd dominated for 15 years, quietly replaced her with Jennifer from the garden club. The country club ladies stopped including her in their champagne brunches. Even her church committee found a new treasurer. "Did you hear?" my Aunt Susan whispered during one of our rare phone calls. Ruth had to cancel her annual Christmas party. Said she was renovating, but everyone knows nobody would come. I let the news wash over me like warm rain. Remember those endless holiday gatherings where she'd parade my siblings' accomplishments while introducing me as her other one? The memory of sugar cookies and humiliation faded a little more each time someone else confirmed Ruth's fall. My cousin Kate, who owned the vineyard, brought me coffee one morning as I worked. "Your mom tried joining our book club," she said, settling into my guest chair. "Caroline shut that down fast, said she couldn't trust someone who'd mock their own kid's success." I kept my eyes on my screen, working on a pitch for a new tech client. That must have stung. Like a whole hive of bees. Kate sipped her coffee. "You know what's weird? She's not even defending herself anymore. Just goes quiet when people mention the video." The video. Brandon's perfectly framed footage of my revelation at the gala had taken on a life of its own. Some local marketing firm had even used it in a presentation about authentic branding moments. The irony wasn't lost on me. I glanced at my shelf where the platinum-finished plaque caught the morning light. It had arrived yesterday, my own copy, identical to the one I'd sent Ruth. But while hers was a reminder of her failure, mine was a trophy of patience. "You seeing any of the family for Thanksgiving?" Kate asked. "Brandon invited me to his place in Seattle." I turned back to my work. "Said Mom's not coming. Probably for the best." "Yeah, probably. But here's the thing about karma. It hits differently when you're the one who aimed it." Sometimes I caught myself wondering if I'd gone too far, if the complete dismantling of Ruth's social standing was more than I'd intended. Then I'd remember her voice at that reunion. "Let's pray Dana finds her purpose someday." Well, I'd found it. My client list had tripled. The design firm that had originally subcontracted me now wanted a partnership deal. 3 magazines had requested interviews about emerging voices in financial branding. My phone buzzed. Another email from a potential client. This one had seen my work for Ruth's investment firm and wanted something similar for their hedge fund. "We appreciate how you balance sophistication with accessibility," they wrote. I smiled at that. Sophistication with accessibility. That's what Ruth had praised too, back when she thought some nameless corporate artist had created her firm's brand. "Even the logo's classy," she'd gushed. They said the designer was visionary. The sun climbed higher, warming my office. I stood to adjust the blinds and caught my reflection in the plaque's polished surface. The logo I'd designed gleamed back at me, clean lines and hidden meaning, just like everything else in this story. "Designed by the Deadweight," I read aloud, tracing the engraved words. The platinum finish was flawless, unlike Ruth's carefully maintained facade. Unlike the lies she'd built her reputation on. My phone lit up again. Another interview request. This one wanted to talk about hidden talents and late-blooming success stories. I declined without reading further. They had it wrong anyway. I hadn't bloomed late. I'd been growing all along, roots spreading silent and strong beneath the surface while Ruth bragged about her other flowers. I picked up the plaque, feeling its solid weight in my hands. All those years of dismissal, of being the extra child, the one who just couldn't quite measure up. They'd built to this moment, to this symbol of everything she'd missed while she was busy looking past me. "Turns out," I said aloud to the empty office, setting the plaque back in its place of honor, I was carrying more than she ever knew. I believe stories like this find us for a reason. If this one touched you, please subscribe. I share a new one every day, and tomorrow's might be the one your heart's been waiting for.